G'day, Club 18 stars, and welcome to the Club 18 Legends series. This week, we're going to go back and talk to a modern-day hero. And this guy was recommended to the series, and I love it when that's the case because you know you've got some good content coming. But a lot of the commentary that came through was about his love of getting his kit off. So I'm sure we'll get to that at some point throughout the episode. But I want to hear from another very popular member of the current Clubbies setup because there's been a lot of talk about this fella. So I want to welcome to the series, Benny Anderson. Welcome.
Hey, Degs.
Mate, great
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Have you been watching the series so far?
Yeah. No, it's been good. There's not a whole lot else to do at the moment. So, I enjoy when the videos come through and, certainly been keeping my eye out for them.
Yeah. So what's some of the stuff you've learnt from watching the videos?
Yeah, I did not know that we came from Q. So I didn't know the history there. So that was probably the big one. And yeah, look, it's good to see when you go back in history and listen to some of these blokes. It's pretty similar culture to what they're today. That's probably the part that I took out of it. It's you look at what the club builds on itself on today, and sounds like back in the day it was very similar. But yeah, look, the background of Q was probably the real interesting one for me, and just the longevity of the club. And yeah, so that was probably the takeout for me from it all.
Yeah. So I've done a little bit of research about you in the background. Now, the one bit of feedback came through that you're not real good with small talk. So are you going to be right tonight to get through this?
Yeah, I've had to write down notes. No, small talk's not one of my strong points, but hopefully a few beers will get me through it, and I'll start the buddy loosen up a bit.
Well, that's right. That's what it's all about. So you didn't have the standard background when you came to the club. So at the Two Blues. So tell us how it started for you.
Yeah, look, I actually played my first ever game of Aussie rules with the Two Blues. I'm a rugby union boy through and through, born in northern New South Wales. So I played rugby my whole life growing up and knew of Aussie rules, obviously, but not as big. And when I was overseas, probably the first time I really started, I lived there in England for a bit and lived with a Victorian fella, and he sort of pointed out to me, he said, you're not built like a rugby player. He said, you're built like a centre-half back. And I didn't even know what a centre-half back was. And he sort of took me down. We started kicking a footy. And, then I moved down to Victoria just with work. And I was in Geelong for a few years. Sort of threw out the idea a few times of playing Aussie rules. It's always something I wanted to have a go at because I was a pretty ordinary rugby player, not built for it. And I thought, Aussie rules, I wouldn't mind having a go at that. And I was in Geelong for a bit and just never got around to it. And then one of my mates, he started playing for the twos, and he's a bit of a freak at sport. And after 3 or 4 games, he was playing in the ones. And I sort of watched a few games, and I said to him, mate, this Two Blues have a thirds. And he said, no, they don't. I said, oh, bugger. Because I went down and watched the twos games. I thought, these blokes are a bit too serious for what I'm after.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I don't have a thirds. And then a couple of weeks later, he texted me. He said, oh, mate, there's a couple of blokes at the end of the ground when we train to kick at goals. He said, I think they might be the thirds. And then all of a sudden he texted me Slavo's number. And myself and Jada, another boy from up north, and there's a mate from rugby, and he texted Slavo, and we thought, oh, what's the name, Slavo? And in our heads we thought it was this buddy, going to be this big old Bulgarian man, and little we'd know it was the best looking man from Geelong in history. And so we texted Slavo, and he was like, yeah, come down. And we came down, and first night I remember at Orong, we were parked in the park there near the pub, and we were pretty nervous. We're like, we've never bloody played Aussie rules. What have we got ourselves into here? And text Slavo and said, oh, mate, we're here. What do we do? And next thing you know, Slavo was at the front and waving us in, and we thought he's keen. And then when we got in there, I think we doubled the amount of people at training, so we sort of worked out why you're so keen for a few new faces.
Yeah.
And, so that's how we sort of got involved with the club, really.
So when are we talking? What year is this?
That would have been 2016. So yeah, and that was I think we had 2 training sessions, and then another rugby boy, Trent Smith, from the same club, who lived down in Melbourne. He came down after 2 training sessions. Slavo sort of said, "Are you boys ready?" And we're sort of like, oh, and I mean, Smithy's bloody 36, 37 at the time, so he knew that his days were numbered. So he's like, no, get us out there. And yeah, that was it. We played our first game against St Francis, I think it was, and we're meant to rotate through the one position, 8 each. And I think by second quarter, we had a lot of bad injuries that game. We were all on there for, we were all, like, one time we looked on the field like, geez, we're all on the field. There goes the rotation. We're all playing here now, and that was it. And that was, that was our introduction to clubbies.
How'd you go? How'd you go in the first game?
A lot of surprises. I remember getting the ball in my hand and then just hearing voices everywhere. I just couldn't believe, like, everyone in front of you, and just all of a sudden, like, there's just voices everywhere, and you sort of panicked and just throw the ball in your boot. And the other thing was too, like, I suppose I didn't realise, like, when the ball's coming from a mark, I just sort of thought, oh, here you go, I'll get myself a mark. And didn't realise that sort of, all the bumps and the sort of, without being rude, you sort of, from a rugby background, you always thought Aussie rules was a little bit soft. And I remember just sort of waiting for this ball and didn't realise you could sort of hip and shoulder and things like this, and just got belted. And I thought, oh, hang on a sec, what have I got to do now? And a lot of running, and I was sore, but we loved it. Absolutely loved it. Haven't looked back.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talk about the skills, the transfer of the skills, but tackling, like, I'd perceive that you guys would walk in and be tackling guns. Is that the case?
I don't know. Well, it's one of those things that's hard to catch because the bikes aren't running straight at you. But I think, look, it's probably a bit easier than rugby to bring people to ground because they're not trying to run through you. They're, but like harder to catch, but probably a bit easier to bring down.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the things that, like, with a few of the rugby boys is, and there's more rugby boys there at the club now. It's probably one of the few things we do bring we don't bring kicking, we don't bring handballs, but, in that contested sort of space, I suppose, with, the physical side of it's second nature to it, I guess. So probably one of the few things we can bring.
Yeah. So how have the other skills gone? You're kicking, handball, you're marking. How's that gone since?
I think kicking sort of slightly. Handball, can't handball off my left side. I've never tried it in a game. Still run around to the other side, which probably isn't great. I remember Judder, one of the other rugby boys, he tried doing a left-handed one probably in his second season. He had an air swing. I thought, I'm never going to embarrass myself. But no, I still definitely have a shocking kick every so often. But it's sort of, it's one of those things I don't think it'll ever come second nature to me. But you improve, and that's why I love training. It's just it's a good challenge. Donna, who's just joined the club as well, he's another rugby boy, and look, he's a good mate, so I don't think he'll mind me saying, but I mean, his best kick still comes off his shin. So you can always tell the rugby boys we hold the ball like a pineapple. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So look, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, well, that's right. So are you a centre half back? What sort of player are you? Describe yourself as a player now going forward.
Probably I end up at fullback most of the time. I'm a pretty dour defender. I actually enjoy that side of the game. I've got sort of long, spindly arms, so I sort of normally just try and put myself on there full forward and get the arm in and just try and get a fist to it. I actually get a bit of satisfaction out of playing with someone if I can keep them, make their day as miserable as possible. I've had a happy day. I'm not too worried about sort of running in the field and getting kicks and getting bounces. So I think I've only had one bounce in my whole career. I attempted two and only made one. The other one I got tackled. It wasn't that I didn't catch it. I actually got tackled mid-bounce, which was pretty embarrassing. The bounce was perfect.
And it's a free kick against you for that too. Might not have known that rule.
Yeah, well, the ref didn't. Or Humpy didn't.
Yeah.
So pretty dour defender.
So is there a nickname for you? I've heard Silk or Sandpaper. What's this? Yeah.
So Silk was. I don't even know how that really originated. It might have even come from myself, to be honest. I heard about Bergs, and I thought that was the best nickname I've ever heard, and it sort of caught on with a few of the boys. And then Trent Smith came back from holidays, and he heard people call me Silk, and he was filthy. Because he's a bloke who's in his mid-50s, and the best name he's ever got was Smithy. So he was filthy on it, and so he started Sandpaper, and it's sort of fun. Some people kept on going with Silk, but then I'd have a training session where I had an absolute shocker, and Sandpaper would grow legs again. So it was a real, it's a real pendulum for how my skills are going at the time. Since Trent's left the club, I think Silk sort of, it's almost embedded now, but I'm well and truly happy to. I earn sandpaper every so often, so I'm happy to bloody wear it.
That's right. Well, Gorney's known as Fumbles, so he
Exactly.
so that's okay. That's okay. He won't like that either, and I know that, so which is good. But what I have heard about you is you become a reliable player, but still not quite a reliable kick yet. So that's the bit of feedback.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So you got a leadership role in the club too, don't you?
Yeah. No, I think it was 2018, early in the year. At the start of the year, Gorney took me aside and he said, "Look, mate, we're going to make you DVC." I said, "What the hell's DVC?" I thought it was bloody some sort of STD. So I didn't know what was going on. He said, "Deputy Vice Captain." And I thought, geez, that's a weird title. And I thought he was taking the piss out of me a bit. And then all of a sudden when he announced it, like blokes like Slavo and Faz were like, "Oh, congratulations, Benny." And I was like, what's going on here? And then I learned the history about it, and I was sort of wear it with pride. It's you heard Borby talk about it, and I've met Borby once, and I was pretty chuffed with the honour and wear it with pride.
Yeah, and that's a famous role. He wore it with aplomb, I suppose, if there's a bit of phrase in that. But he had times where he actually got to captain on the day as well because of other people not being there. Have you had the same option or the opportunity?
No, I don't think I've ever. I was meant to captain one time, and I think the opposition forfeited. I've been given the halftime speech a couple of times. I made an absolute meal of one against Avs. We had a big night the night before, and might have still been slightly under the influence. And I just got the adrenaline just got to me at halftime, and the boys. Yeah, I just remember I just thought, it was Avs too. So you're a bit fired up, and I just blurted out like I thought it was something like off Braveheart, and the boys said afterwards it was just absolute gibberish. And then I just fired off in the wrong direction. I just remember sprinting off, and then someone's like, "Wrong end, Ben," and I was just like, still going.
Yeah, there's a fair bit in that. So for watchers of this series will go, you've nailed a Braveheart piece and you've gone to the wrong end, which have been two of the famous moments of the club's history, all in one moment. Well, you're meant to
exactly. And that's what I've learned through the podcast. Also these bloody videos as well. You learn that part of the history and how it all fits in.
That's right.
Well, the other one I learned too the other day was about the Slavo's betting incident. And then because I suppose and now it makes sense because on my first footy trip away, Rob Cullen, who used to work for Sportsbet, Slavo came up with the idea like, we should once again invest the the kitty. And
not met with
Rob Cullen always fancied himself as a punter. Exactly. And like he said, Rob, why don't you give us a tip? And so Rob gave a tip and it lost.
Oh.
And now I've heard the history. I think I do remember Slavo sort of slightly smiling when it lost. And then not only did it lose after that, Slavo actually said, "I think we should chip in and go again if you got another tip, Rob." So we chipped in again. Rob gave another tip and it lost again.
Oh, Jay.
Yeah, and Slavo was like, "Oh, come on, Rob. Geez, that's ordinary, mate." And now it all makes sense.
Yeah, deflection. That's what that's called.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. But you're involved in a lot of the admin and fundraising, aren't you, around the club?
Yeah. Yep. So we do the raffle or the auctions for the end of the season footy trip. Try and do a bit of admin, and look, it's one of those things. I guess the old boy, he was treasurer for the rugby club back home for 30 years. So it's one thing I've always appreciated that clubs they certainly don't run themselves. So if I couldn't do much on the footy field, you can always try and help off on the footy field. So it's like one of those things when I first came into the role, I remember doing the admin. I was like, no, from this day forth, we're never going to play an unregistered player. We're going to be, to the T, every player is going to be registered. And to this day, I can say that not one game did we play without someone playing under a different name. That went out the window straight away. It went out the window straight away. It was just impossible. So much to the point, I remember playing out at Brunswick one day, and I think we had about 6 or 7 ring-ins, which we needed just to get the game. And my brother-in-law, who he walked past. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing for your team today." I said, "I didn't even know this." He was a ring in of a ring in.
Mm-hmm.
And just so yeah. But look, yeah, that was always one of the things I thought you could try and help out and do. So, and the auctions were always a bit of fun too.
What happens there?
Yeah, look, it's basically all we did was just, I think Killer started the initiative. It's, blokes donate something into the club. Doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be. Some people donate their time, whether it be a Sparky, or I think Killer used to do a valet service to the MCG for a footy game, and then people pay for it. And then look, all the funds go into the end of year footy trip. And then Slavo normally just wasted on some stupid punt. but look, it's a good initiative. It's a good fun initiative. I just enjoy running it. And one thing it did highlight too was just the generosity of some of the boys in the team. There were guys there who haven't been, not actively playing or haven't been playing for a year or two, and still, actively, donating time or money. And basically it was going to our inter-season footy trip. So it just sort of shows some of the people that have been in the club and around the club, like some real, very generous people there.
Yeah,
some tight asses too, who did some very ordinary bids, but
they all come up to the surface, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I know their names.
As long as everyone else does too. You can name them here if you want.
No. Faz always bet with sense. He'd always put in a decent bid. He wasn't a tight ass, but he'd always put sense on the end of it.
Yeah, well, no point putting 0-0. Everyone does that. You might as well be 0-1.
Exactly right. The old Price is Right theory.
That's right. Cougar ran that for us 1 year, and we only did it for 1 year.
Oh.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I'm not sure why we didn't keep going, and I'm glad to hear it's still going now, because that's an awesome way to raise coin. So it's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I get the sense, I mean, from talking to you now, and then just even the contact we had before this, I get the sense that you love being part of Two Blues. I mean, you've with no background, but so what's grabbed you? What have you loved about it?
Yeah, look, probably the part that grabbed me, and like someone's already touched on this in this video series, there's no clicks. Like I've been involved with a fair few sporting clubs in my time, and it's pretty rare that you walk into a sporting club and there's no click or there's no sort of groups in it. Look, it is a bit of a United Nations of footy players, and like where everyone comes from, everyone's background. But you can sit there, and I just love after a game. That's my favourite time of the week, by a mile, after a game. Sitting around having a beer, and you can go from group to group, person to person. There's no one you avoid. There's no group that sort of don't want to talk to you. And look, it's during my time here, we haven't been a super successful club, but everyone, we always punch above our weight, and that's everyone has a go. That's probably the part. Everyone just digs in, and good bunch of blokes. Like it's just there's a lot of positive I really like about this club. Just some real characters too. Very easygoing people. Look, it's just each year it's just a no-brainer just to rock up again and go again. Yeah.
So tell me about some of the characters. Who stands out and why?
Yeah, look, I suppose I put down a few. Like I just jotted down when I was thinking about this week. On it, you got sort of characters on the field and off the field. I think on the field, Davo, the current captain's a beauty. I don't know if you've had much to do with Davo, but he's a good man. He rocks headgear from the 70s. Wears it with pride every game. It's a shocking set of headgear, and he puts it on. And Davo's the captain at the moment. Before every game, Davo will always say, "Treat the ref with respect and don't get sucked into niggle." And in the first 5 minutes, he's abusing the ref, and it's just always mouthing off at the opposition. Shocking chat too. Like I've heard him like on the mark, just calling people fatty. Real old school stuff, but but don't get me wrong, he's a heart and soul of the team. He's he puts his head where I wouldn't put my foot. He's just always in amongst it. Come out of rucks and he'll always be getting buddy whacked in the side of the head, and he's a goer. And then off the field, he's a beauty too. I mean, you don't get the nickname the Hurricane for no reason. We've had a few nights out where we've lost Davo, and he hasn't his wife's been texting Goiney saying, has anyone seen Davo 24 hours later?
Oh, that's a tough one.
He's one of the best. Look, one of the other characters, he probably didn't play as many games for he only played a handful of games for the club, but I still reckon he epitomised the Clubbies, was one of Jimmy Turnley's mates, Red. And this bloke, Jimmy said, I've got a mate that's going to play for us this week out at, I can't remember, we played him now, Oldham or Warham or one of those places. I forget all the suburbs in Melbourne. But we're playing out there, and he rocked up with these two greyhounds and tied them up in the change rooms when we played, and had a Macca's Cup with them out for the day. And I thought that's a good Clubbies player. And I remember we had a carpool going from Geelong, or a few of the boys had a carpool coming from Geelong, and I remember talking to one of the boys from Geelong, and they were saying he still brings his dogs every week, even though he's in a carpool. He'd whack the dogs in the back seat. And Red was a beauty as a gun player and a gun bloke too. Yeah. But and then at the vote count, every time he went up to get it, because when we're doing the vote count at the end of the year, Faz would run the table at the front, and every time you got a vote, you had to go out there and have a skull. And I remember every time Red would go out there to do his skull, Faz would make this weird face, and no one knew what was going on. And every time Red was going up to do his skull, he was showing part of his body.
Showing what? Oh.
And we couldn't work out what Faz kept on buddy. So yeah, he was one of the great clubby characters. But yeah, look, I mean, there's just the absolute genuine great blokes. I mean, Mordo's an absolute ripper. Slavo, they're the sort of heart and soul, all those blokes, just the real characters. And yeah, there's some bloody good people around the club still.
Yeah, good one. So in terms of your playing memories, so in terms of on field, what's some of your great memories from your games? I think you played about 47 games, actually. I looked up your list. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. What's some of the memories?
I've kicked 2 goals. So one of them was not memorable. I think it was about 5 metres. But the first goal was memorable. I've only been pushed forward a couple of times, and normally it's when the game's in the bag or we're getting absolutely flogged. But yeah, my first goal was very memorable, to me, it was very memorable. I was chuffed. It took a mark. I think it was about, I'll say 50 out, but it might have been 45. But I remember Faz was next to me and he gave me no chance. He kept on saying, hand it off. And I thought, oh, bugger it, I'm not going to get too many chances in my life. So there's a little breeze in the back, and yeah, managed to kick it over. And that was one of the very life only comes to one game a year. And I remember at the end of the game, I said, she said, no, I went and got a coffee. So I was, that's good. But look, in terms of, favourite memorable moments as a team, I remember we beat Zabs probably 2 years ago. And at the time, I mean, Zabs probably weren't as strong in my era as they were in previous eras. And at the time, like I was pretty happy. But then you reflect now, like it's more so like Faz, Slavo, going these blokes, like it meant so much to them. So that's one of my favourite moments, just being involved with that. Like it was pretty significant. I don't think we'd beaten for, I can't remember what the record was. It was years and years and years. So just being involved with that day, sort of seeing how happy it was for those guys. And another one was I never really enjoyed playing Melbourne High. It was always something I always find a bit weird, blokes who still play for the high school as an adult. But look, we played, there was a year there where we always had pretty close battles with them. And often, and there's a few games there where it was getting pretty heated. And there's a year there where their under-19s team got folded, and their 19s team came up into Clubbies grade. And they'd been basically flogging everyone. They could run rings around everywhere. They were young and fit, and there's a few blokes getting around Clubbies who are probably on the wrong side of 40 and wrong side of 100 kilos. And, we were playing the adult team, and they were beating us, and it was getting pretty heated. And I just remember we were playing them at Melbourne High, and the under-19s team would just hang over the fence, just feeding it to us. They just absolutely giving us a gobful and into us all in the back line, just giving us a spray. And I remember we lost that day to the older team. And I remember just leaving the ground that day singing, righto, when we play this team, we've got to square up. And in your head, you sort of think that, but that often doesn't really play out well. And realistically, this team was going on beating teams by 40 and 50. And But then when we eventually came to playing them, we had to play them at Elstonwick, and I've got no fond memories at Elstonwick. We were always getting belted there. It's a big ground and windy, and got to Elstonwick and it was pissing down rain, and then all of a sudden we got moved to this ground that was about the size of a postage stamp. I reckon it would have been like, yep, it was like an under 14 ground, and it started pissing down rain, and all of a sudden all these young fellas, they had nowhere to go, and we had a few big boys like Davo, Faz, Rob Cullen, who's an Irish fellow, who's a rugby boy, and it was just like bordering on physical assault. You know, the first 10 minutes, just these guys just couldn't run anywhere. They were just it was just a fun day. And yeah, we ended up winning by 40, 50 points. And it was just one of those sort of nice, calmer moments. And if it had been a dry day on a full field, they would have run rings around us, but we just happened to get them on a postage stamp on a wet day, and just, it was good. It was a good, fun memory.
Good fun those days, aren't they? When it's just all sliding around and plenty of that.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Yeah.
And it suited our physical conditions as well.
Yeah. Slight change of tack before I change tack further, but have you ever copped any massive sprays from any teammates over time? That's something you got fed to me.
No one that got fed to you.
Yeah.
Someone's giving me a spray. Don't know. I'm trying to think who might have.
If I put on the fact that Faz might have told me about that, has Faz ever given you a massive spray over time?
No,
okay. Well, that's all right.
I remember.
Thanks,
Faz always thinks I don't tell the truth. I mean, in my second game, I saw Faz punching up like a 17-year-old in the gut, and he always denies that. Which I'm trying to think. I can't remember Faz ever giving me a spray.
No, well, I don't know what he's got something in his mind, and he's good on you, Faz. Anyway, let's change tack again. So let's go to the headline story. I mentioned this at the start, but you're a big fan of getting your kid off. Discuss.
Yeah, I'm not. I am when I've had enough beers. A few of the end of season boat counts. When I've had a few beers, it seems like a good idea in Gorney's penthouse. Gorney often complains they're still cleaning my bodily hair out of the spa. And it was, there's one particularly where, the spa was there and I did get into it nude as you do at that time of night and after that many drinks. And that's fine and well. But then I remember just seeing the photos from later on because I can't remember that part of the night. But I just remember seeing photos and it's like from 2 hours later and I'm still not in my kit and not in the spa. So I don't know what was going on there. But yeah, look, I know it's happened. It's one of those things that I do after a certain amount of drinks. I'm trying to grow out of it, but it's...
Don't rush. There's no point rushing that. That's but there's no point. So two things on that I get. There's no point hopping in the spa with clothes on, so you might as well be nude, and you've got to dry off.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like a good idea at the time, so.
And it will again.
I'm sure.
It will again one day.
Exactly, mate. There's no point saying I'll never do it again because it'll more than likely happen again.
That's right.
Just got to make sure you stay in good nick. That's probably the real trick.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing a fair bit these days is still a love of the footy trips. Everyone loves their footy trips. So what's some of your favourite memories of those?
Yeah, look, the afternoon beers, I reckon, are still the best beers you have. Yeah, once it goes dark, that's just, you didn't play. Everyone sort of goes their own way, but the afternoon beers when everyone's just sitting around chewing the fat, that's the best time of the day. That's I love those moments. It's where you just sort of got the banter going, and as soon as you open your mouth and say something stupid, everyone's just on you. One of the boys a few years ago he was trying to tell a story, and he mentioned that he enjoys doing floating, where you go in those bars and those things like it's meditation, floating. Yeah, he came out with that on a footy trip, and just done. Like he just got rinsed for the rest of the trip.
Why would you say that? Like say it. Don't say it ever, but don't say it on a footy trip. Well, that's ridiculous.
But no, look, there's some great memories. We've been going to Byron for a few years, and the funny Byron's about an hour away from where I grew up, which is I was originally I was always against Byron. But it's an hour away for a buddy born and raised. I've spent too much time in Byron. Always run into people I know around there, but just getting away. It's a good fun trip. Just get out of Melbourne. The weather, a bit of warm weather. There's a few little funny, like little nuances whenever you get there. Johnny Corrigan will always put on his aviators and walk down to the topless end of the beach and go sightseeing. I think that's one of the traditions.
I jumped in. I prompted him on that. In his interview, and he didn't bite. Well, I heard about he puts his little outfit on, the aviators, and I threw it out there, and he just let it pass. I thought, come on, there's a story here, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Like clockwork. As soon as he dropped his bags off at the hotel, and off he goes.
So I want to ask you then. So tell me where you stand on the Johnny, Dino, Tristan incident. If you were there.
Yep.
They went off to go and get the beers, and they came back without beers and without cash. Where do you stand on that?
It's one of those things. I stand with a bit of guilt. We should have never sent those three people to get beer. Responsibility was with the rest of the team. But it was a debacle. What he said, there's holes. There's so many holes in the story. Swedish backpackers, fighting off this group. It's just holes in it. It should have been, the boys should have come back with 2 cartons, never mentioned it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's one of the great stories too, because it pains Faz. It pains Faz. Like you'll be sitting there having a beer with Faz sometimes, and there'll just be a bit of silence, and he'll just go, no, that doesn't add up. Like he'll just bring it up. It hurts him to this day. I still think he's got a file running on it, but through his detective, as a detective, I reckon he started a file at work and he spends every so often on it. But the Byron trips are always a good trip up to Byron. And look, the year gone, no, what we got? Not last year, year before, we didn't do a Byron trip just because we didn't have the numbers, unfortunately. But we instead, like, you can't have footy year without bloody doing something of the year. We went out to the Dunkeld races, and that was a cracking day. So doing something at the end of the year is always important, I reckon.
Yeah. Now, there's been a bit of talk lately, and this is something we might explore a bit further, but pre-season footy trips. So we used to do those back in the day, and all of a sudden you come out raring to go when the season started. So we talk about whether, and Brett Lewis, who's done a couple of these interviews, is all over this. He's going, get past guys, current guys together, pre-season trip, and let's get on the gas, on the beers together. Daniel style.
Yep.
So keep your eye out for that.
Yeah, we did a little one probably a couple of years ago. Now, Johnny Brooker, one of the boys at the club, who's full of connections. I remember he got the man. I can't remember it now. It's the bus that Hamish and Andy did their tour around Australia on. So he had a connection that could borrow that bus, and he managed to get 8 of us on it, and we did a trip down to Geelong and did a bit of a day down there. So pre-season trips, all for them.
Brilliant. We're the club for it. We're made for this sort of stuff. Now, going through, so pre-season trips might not be in play for you. So you've played 47 games, 50's in sight, but you've got an announcement to share.
Yeah. So I'll be moving to Queensland in 2 weeks' time. So unfortunately, my time at the Two Blues I won't be playing as many games as I have over the past few years. Certainly not retiring or pulling the pin, because anytime I'm in Melbourne, we'll look to pull the boots on and help out. But the start of the year came up with I had the opportunity to work, and it's a good chance for me to get closer to home. But it's one of those things, I guess. If I wasn't, when it all happened, I said to my wife, I said, we won't pull ship and sort of go straight away. So I wouldn't mind playing another season with the Two Blues, get 50 games up, and go out in style. And COVID's well and truly taking any chance of that away. So that was the initial plan. But look, it's one of those things. I'll certainly miss the club, but that doesn't mean I won't be sort of involved in some capacity. You never say never, do you?
Never say never. You never know where you're going to be. So, and given that Craig Berger, I think Bergs is 58 now, so you can still have plenty of time to get out and get on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So So give us a bit of a snapshot about COVID. So this year, you haven't played at all, have you?
No, look, no, there's been no games. We started start of the year, myself and Jimmy Turnley, who's Jimmy's the current coach, and Jimmy's done a great job and good bloke. We started trying to do a few pre-season trainings, and then that's when COVID started to hit, and then they came out and sort of said, there's going to be a limit on how many people you have at sporting trainings, and I think the limit was 10, and thankfully we're operating at about 4 or 5 people at that stage, so we're well and truly safe for hitting the limit. And then, it just got to the point where I think in June they were still sort of saying, oh, look, we're going to try and get a season going in July, and it was just, you could just see it was always going to be too hard. So, unfortunately never played a game this year, but a couple of training sessions, and that's been about it, really.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. As I said, in light of your 47 games, it should have been 50 in round 3. That's a shame you haven't had that chance yet.
Yeah. But, look, that's life. And look, I'm well and truly, I'm sitting here today, I can guarantee I won't finish on 48 games. I'll make sure I'm down in the next couple of years to tick that off. And we'll know in the way the club is, someone might play under my name and break the record before I even get a chance to get down is the other thing.
That's true. Be careful when you come back for those games. You're still in charge of admin. You'll be collecting subs, doing auction
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's good. So in terms of your 47 games, your time there, so what's it, 4 years or so there, what's something you do the same? What's something you do different in that time?
Look, definitely join the club. That's number one. But always, I just keep speaking it to people I know. That's something I'd continue to do. Even people, I've got mates down here who've never played Aussie rules as well, and I just keep saying, I'm like, get down and have a game. And they always say, I don't want to have a commitment. I said, there's no commitment. Like it's, you can't sell that point enough. And I'd continue to that, and I just continue spruiking the club as hard as possible. Look, what I do different, as corny as it sounds, I would have come down earlier. I spent a couple of years in Geelong, not playing sport. And so, you look back now, I wish I'd sort of known about the club then. And, it's not, there's always boys commuting in from Geelong. So, I wish I'd sort of knew about the club then and taken the initiative and start up then because, been bloody good fun.
Yeah. And I think it catches a lot of people by surprise, don't it? Like they walk in and go, it's footy club, every footy club's, but there's just that something different about this one that connects you, it makes you feel that way.
100%. We've had a few mates. It's funny, like a few of the boys from the rugby club, I think from the to the USC rugby club of Sunny Coast, like there's myself, Jada and Smithy. We started playing back in 2016. We've had about 4 mates just do cameos, like down in Melbourne, just convince them. They come back after saying, how good's this? Like, just let us have a go. And, just loved it. And, you got blokes that have only played 1 game for the club and come back afterwards and saying, oh, how the two Blues going?
So what else have we missed, Benny? Were there any other stories that you've got for us?
Look, none of my stories are great. Like it's probably just the people really, I think, in the club. Like, I mean, the one that you got blokes just seem like Berger. He's an enigma. He just, I think one of my favourite memories of Bergs is like in terms of player, like he's definitely the best player I've played with. I remember the first year I was like, oh, righto. So I think this guy, you can tell he's pretty good. And then second year, I think it was like first or second game against Avs. He wasn't meant to play. He was on the bench. And we were down by 2 goals at half time, which is pretty good for us at that stage. And all of a sudden, Bergs just got the sniff. And he thought, hang on, we can do something here. And he just went to his car, got his kit and kicked 4 goals in the second half. And then, like, at the end of the game, we ended up tying the game. We didn't win it, but we tied it. End of the game, like, he just put on his aviators and just strolled off into the sunset. And I remember, like, me and a few of the other boys near the club, we thought, fuck, who is this bloke?
Yeah. He's a freak. He's a freak. So I played it. My last game, it was a grand final. He busted his arm the week before, so busted it full on. So he just got some padding wrapped around it and still was our best player in the grand final that day.
Yeah.
Broken arm, 1 week old.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And look, he in the back line too. He's pretty handy with what he does, but he also, for all us blokes who are new to the game, he'll let us know. I think every so often he gets a little bit frustrated with us, but we don't have the same skills as him. But he's good. Like he gives us a hand and tells us what to do and keeps us in line.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Well, it's good when the senior citizens of the world give back to the younger generations. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, and there's some cracking. And look, it's not just Bergs either. I'm going to be selfish and just name the blokes in the back line because, but like when Sieves was there, Sieves was an absolute cracker for it. Mordo, then there's a few other blokes at the club recently, like Bren. There's just a bloody good fellas, and they're willing to get their time and take you aside and give you a few tips when you do something wrong. And there's some cracking fellas like that. There's some very good elder statesmen in the club.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. No, mate, well, that's terrific. So, I appreciate you coming on. So I've loved hearing you chat and your journey. And what's stuck out for me is how much you love it. I mean, you got in there and pretty quickly felt the vibe of the club and got right into it. And you've done plenty around the club. And I reckon with your announcement today, there'll be blokes devastated by what you've just announced earlier about you moving it back up to Queensland. So I think it's a massive loss for the club in the short term. Obviously, you'll be back at times, but mate, I've loved hearing your journey. So thanks very much for being part of tonight, part of the series.
No, I appreciate it, Deeks. I really, really enjoyed the series and what you've done, mate. It's during a bit of a strange old year. I think it's crucial because it's going to be next year's going to be a tough year or a weird year. And I think it's the only thing I'd sort of say to anyone listening to this is it's a bit of a call to arms. I think next year is unprecedented times, and look, there might be a lot of people who can't actually put on the jersey, but if you know someone who can, start of next year is just going to be crucial just to get a few people I'm a bit gutted I can't be here for it, but just, start of the year, there's going to have to be a pre-season trip and just get, build some momentum because it's going to be a weird old time.
Yeah.
So, anyone who's got a mate who's got 2 legs and 2 hands, get them down.
Prefer that they can handball, particularly on the left-hand side.
Yeah, they go. That's why I'm leaving.
Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Well, mate, again, thanks for doing it tonight. Bernie Anderson, you're a clubby legend, mate, so good stuff.
Cheers, Deeks. Appreciate it, mate.
Good on you. So we're signing off for this week again, team. Thanks, Bernie, again. And remember, boys, we are the mighty Club 18. Thanks, boys.